Hi, everyone. Let's come back. Just before anything, I want to share a Google Drive link. Just made one. So we can share, I'm gonna share some files on the way I go. So I saved it here. I can share this again. Control C. Where's all chat? Okay. All right. Yeah, so I'm gonna, on the way I go, I'm gonna share some files here. Okay. All right, so let's start by opening our Unity Hub. So in the Unity Hub, if you have installed in this way, you can install many different versions of Unity, which will, of course, use up your hard drive space. But what Unity is not good is the exchange of or compatibility of different versions. So for example, 2017 cannot open in 2019. And yeah, even if they were like an earlier version, it doesn't work. So if you have developed your app with this version, stick to this version. You can always add different installs, yeah, with different version. And you can always track the earlier version that you need. And most importantly, you need to install this LTS version, that is long-term release. So I know I told you to install 2020 something, yeah. So you do that. I somehow have a problem. I get errors. So this one for sure it works for me. So I'm gonna just stick to this version. But there is only few differences. Like there are not much. Yeah. So it won't affect our tutorial. So if you are to install, you can go ahead and find what is official release or what is pre-release. You can see it's beta, alpha. Don't do that if you are not a developer. And archive, don't worry. Yeah. So see, everything is like officially released and it's recommended and it's long-term support. Make sure it's long-term support, and there are a few of these. So I have 2019.4 slightly different, but most of the time after this, the difference of these small numbers doesn't make too much changes. So today you have installed 3.17. Maybe tomorrow they will say 3.20. You don't have to install every single 3 point something. Yeah, if you have 3.17, it should work well, okay? But maybe if they say very soon 2021 something, maybe they have some drastic updates. Maybe you wanna switch to that, but it's not recommended yet, so don't do that. So once you have that, that's your install. So you can have like a lot of different versions. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna just use this one. If you go to your project, you can now make a new project. And from my experience, it's always good to build a project in the desktop. Yeah, it's much faster. And then once I'm done building, if I'm okay with archiving, then I just move the folder to somewhere else. But don't work with like external hard drive directly. Yeah, it's very slow. At least from my experience. So we are going to make a new project, and so there is like all different templates. These are like really weird updated templates. They also have AR templates. That's great. But we are going to just start simply from 3D core. There is also, we might use HDRP or URP sometime. Yeah. We will be maybe mainly using URP because URP is a render pipeline. They are much better rendering settings. But URP have potentially can be built in app. HDRP doesn't work in AR or application. So HDRP, if you are building a PC app or something, you can use HDRP, and they're greater rendering. And 3D, okay, I'm going to find a location on my desktop, and I'm going to change this name, say augmented device. And create. Take some time. And after that, you can close the hub. It's just a building. It creates a folder basically for you in here. This is a package. So once you install that, you will see a lot of folder here. And you can close the hub. Okay. So now whatever you save here, it's going to be saved in this folder. You can move the folder later after you close all the things. All right. So you will see that maybe the composition may be looking a little bit different. Don't worry. But mainly you have a scene view and you have a game view. And you have a assets folder view. And you have a console. And you have a hierarchy. And you have an inspector. All right. So in hierarchy, it shows every single object as a list that is in your scene. All right. Ade, you have a question?
No, I was on mute.
Oh, you raised your hand, so.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Okay, yeah, if you have any question, please stop me anytime. Okay, so let's create an object. So you can, on the hierarchy, you can right click and create these objects. You can create a 3D object. Unity is not a modeling software. So if you want to import some really nice object, you should build it in different software and bring it. Okay, you can right click to create a cube. And it's created in 000 position. And these are the properties of the object you selected. So now in my scene, I have 3 objects. I have a main camera. You see that the inspector changes. It's a property of this camera. And you have the lighting element and you have a cube element. Okay. So if you rotate with Alt press, if you are good in Maya, maybe you will be familiar with this. So press Alt and navigate with your mouse, left mouse orbit, right mouse, zoom, middle mouse pen. All right. And if you are somewhere far and you wanna snap to that position, you can select this geometry and press F. All right. And you can see that in this game view, what you are seeing is you are seeing through this camera. So now this camera is positioned in this position and it's looking towards the box, right? So if you see, if you just change its position a little bit, you will see that it changes, right? So one thing we can do is we can select this geometry and say F. Maybe I'm gonna find the best position. Maybe I like this position. You can snap the camera to this view by selecting the camera and say game object align with view or Control Shift F. So say Control Shift F, then your game view is your camera is aligned to your view in the scene view. So now camera is there. So that's an easy way to align your cameras in a good position. Okay. And another thing you might want to do to prepare yourself is to allow the lighting setting. So what if I make another geometry? You can also make geometry from here. And I'm going to make a plane. So the plane is created in that weird position. You can right click and reset. So it's reset to 0, 0. And I can move this a little bit up so it's above. All right. And one thing I might want to do is to rebake the lighting setting. So you can go to Window, Rendering, and Lighting setting. And maybe it's a floating window for you, like this. I just placed it here. So I can always just open this from here. It's up to you. You can just close the window as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just generate the lighting. And it just makes the scene much brighter. Just to set up the lighting setting. Okay, and if you see this star, it means it's not saved. You need to Control S to save the scene to remove the star. Otherwise, it's not saved. Okay. So I'm gonna move, yeah. So this is a game engine. Well, the best thing of this is that you can interact and make some interactions and buttons and stuff, right? So in order to do that, we need to do some minor scripting. So in order to do that, what we are going to do is we are going to add some really simple script to this guy, all right? So in the cube, what we are going to do is I'm going to add a component, or the best thing is you should, in the assets folder, this is exactly the same as this folder, assets. So whatever you add here, it's gonna appear here. So you will see how it goes. So I'm going to, so here, right click, create a folder and say scripts. So it's a very, very good habit to always organize your folders really well. Okay, so you see how this script folder is generated here, all right? So that's a corresponding position, location. Okay, so inside the scripts, double click, and I'm going to create a script element. So I'm going to say right click, create a C# script. And I'm going to say cube behavior. It's okay, whatever you name it. Cube behavior, and double click on it. And it's gonna launch Visual Studio. Okay, so in the Visual Studio, it launched the script. And what you need to always check is that this name is case sensitive. It has to be exactly same as this. So make sure the file name and the class name is same. Just always make sure. And you will see that there are two functions, or we call it method or function. So this, you see void start, bracket, bracket, parenthesis, parenthesis. This is a structure of a method, or you can call it function. So this is a start function. This is an update function, okay? And this green is a comment. So it doesn't calculate. So you can delete it. Or if you also in the future, you wanna make some note for yourself. I like this line, for example, then you can just make 2/ to skip the calculation.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't get that pop-up. Should I be like downloading something else?
You don't have pop-up of Visual Studio?
No.
So you double clicked, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So if you don't have that in the Unity Hub, so in the install, you can go to the add module and tick this box. Okay. Microsoft Visual Studio Community. It's okay. Yeah. Some of these are not going to be used. So you can always untick some to uninstall, and you can always add to install more components. All right.
Great. Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay. Okay. So if you don't get the Visual Studio editor, it's completely fine. You can also edit this in a notepad still. Yeah. It's completely fine that you edit this anywhere, but it's just more visual in the Visual Studio. It's just easier, and it also checks your error. But if you don't have this now, what you can do is I'm gonna close this, and you can double click in your folder, go to your script folder, and you have this CS file. You open this with a notepad. Open with notepad. You can just type it here as well. Just make sure you don't make spelling mistake. Okay. So I'm gonna double click this again. Okay. So what this script is gonna do is to determine a behavior of this cube. What it does in the start, it only calculates one time when you play the game. And what's happening in the update, it happens every time in every frame. So let me just do a quick test by using debug. Let me just Okay, so debug log and say a message. So I can say, for example, hello and semicolon. You need to always use a semicolon to stop anything, close. Okay, and I'm going to save this. I save this scene. I can minimize. I can minimize this. I save it, and I'm going to make this cube behavior as a property of this cube. Let me show you like this. Okay, so I'm gonna select the cube here. I still don't have cube behavior as a property. So I can just drag this thing to here, or drag this to here, or just add component and search for the cube behavior. So make sure that it's inside the inspector. Okay. And now if I play this game, now it's not moving because we don't have any behavior, but here in the console, it printed hello. Because debug log, this means print something in the console. All right. So let me close this and clear the console. Play this again. It printed hello again. All right. So that's how you add some kind of calculation and behavior. All right, then what's the difference between hello inside start and update? Let me debug something again. Debug log, maybe bye. I don't know, just hello, bye. And let's see what happens. So if I save this, you have to always save it, otherwise it doesn't apply. Save, make sure you don't have a star there, and then play. So you see this bye is increasing, you see? It's happening every time. So so whatever is calculated inside update, it's calculating every time until you close the game. All right. But the hello only calculated one time. Is that cool?
Question.
Mm-hmm.
So when I try to type debug, like I don't have that little, like there is a window pop up in the Visual Studio interface, but I don't have that function, I think.
So it's possible that it doesn't recognize debug from the Unity. So you can here try to say using Unity engine dot debug. No, let me search. You don't have. You don't have debug. Can you share your screen just to show me what's the problem?
Sure. Exactly.
You have a bug.
Like when I type debug.
No, it's case sensitive. D capital
Yes.
dot log, and you have that in the update.
What do you mean?
Inside update, you also have a wrong spelling.
But the text won't turn green. Like, is it still recognized as a function?
Can you try to type everything? You need to use a quotation mark.
Yeah, the same thing happened for me. It worked in Notepad, but once I went to Visual Studio, it didn't quite work.
And semicolon. Okay. Now save it and play it. Did you connect that to the cube?
Yes, it's here.
Uh-huh.
It's fine.
Try to see the console.
Okay.
Cube behavior has some error. Can you clear this? Can you clear? Yeah. Okay. Can you show me the script again?
Yes.
Oh, you need to delete this. It's an error. Yeah. Okay, save it. So if you see this kind of warning, it means there is something wrong.
It's still not working.
It
Is
says-
debug log in debug log is L supposed to be capital?
L capital, yes. Yes. Yeah, so now you don't have this error. Yeah. Okay, it's case sensitive and every single spelling needs to be correct and you cannot have any other lines have wrong mistake, yeah? So every single line needs to be correct.
But is it okay if the text like remains white instead of turning into green?
Don't worry about color. Yeah. Yeah, color is maybe different from, I think in Visual Studio, there is a way to set up different colors, but it's not really important. Don't worry.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll enlarge this. So make sure that there's no mistake. Okay. I'm gonna wait. Can you see my screen or am I sharing? No. Okay, wait for me. Okay, I think seems like how many of you have coding experience? You? Yeah, Ade. So Ade probably is too simple. But I think I'm gonna just cover some basics, yeah? Because it's pretty important because you guys will be coding a lot. You know, Casey is a coding genius, yeah. So he's gonna be another level, yeah. But if I can cover some of the basics with you more, yeah. So throughout the year, you will be using a lot of coding. So you got to be more familiar with different types of syntax, because even if they are Python, C# or anything else, there are actually a lot of things are related and rules are applied to everywhere. All right, so I'm going to cover a few more basics today. Yeah, before we really go ahead. Yeah. But I think it's quite important. So, so we are here looking at the difference between start and update. Yeah. One thing we can also do. This is this with quotation mark is called. I forgot the name. String. Oh my God. Yeah, it's called string. So there are different types of data. So let me just quickly cover the end. If you I'm also always I Google about like some basic C#. So because you are using C#, you can just search for C#. For now, I'm gonna try to find data types. And let's see if there is any website or tutorials listing a good data types. Yeah. So this is great. It shows you all different data types. And we were using string. Okay. Let me cover a few of this. So because we are going to use a lot. So we were using string. So this hello is a string. So you can actually declare a name called string. And this string can be named as A. Say A is a string and it has a value of hello. You always need to close with semicolon, all right? And instead of putting hello, putting the value itself, we can actually refer to a string called A. I can declare a few more strings. String B is maybe my name is semicolon. String C is Soomeen, for example. It can be anything, all right? And if you refer to this name, this two line is called declaring, and this two lines is called assigning value. All right, so what you have been doing here, you can also write it like this. You can declare and in another line, assign value. So this is called declare a value. And assigning a value. Declare a, let's say, a object, let's say. And assigning a value to that object. This object is A, all right? So you can choose to debug, log means print, A, or I can use B. Okay, let me save this and print this. Yeah, so it says B, because I'm printing B. B is my name is, all right? And here is still doing by, okay? But if I want to say, hello, my name is Soomeen, I can also say A plus B plus C. Save and play. See, hello, my name is Soomeen, but there is no space because we didn't type a space. So something like that, okay? So that is about declaring and assigning. But we don't only have to use string. We can use, for example, integer or a Boolean. or a float or a double. So this is something we are going to use more often. So let me mark whatever is going to be used often, okay? So Boolean, you don't need to know anything else. If you are interested in, just click and read the instruction. We are going to use double. We're sometimes going to use float. We are going to use integer. And all the others, we don't use it. We don't normally use it. Okay? So let me explain you what they are. So Boolean is a value that has true and false. So I'm going to say Boolean D, it has a value of true. Yeah. And I can print D to see what D is, save it, and restart the game. Gonna clear the console, restart. So you see the value is true. So it printed true. You can also say false. So Boolean can only have true or false value. And it says, if I didn't save it, yeah, now it printed false. So don't worry about the capital here. It's the value that returned in the debug. Yeah, it's not the syntax. So in the syntax, as a value, you need to use small f and small t. Okay, that's a value. Okay, what is integer? Integer, A, B, C, D, E. Integer is a number that doesn't have decimal number. So anything like this, that is a integer. Okay, I cannot have why is this erroring? Cannot implicitly convert type long to int. Okay, maybe for long integer, you need to change it to 60. So this is integer 32-bit. So if I add more, they are, if I hover integer 64-bit, so it has to be converted to long. So don't worry, we are not going to use them much. So if they are short, that's 32-bit, that's going to be integer, okay? Integer, I think you need to convert this to string, but let's see if this prints. Okay, it printed integer, all right? Okay, you have a double. You can say A, B, C, D, E, F. Double is a number that has decimal number. Maybe something like that. So let's see if it prints double. It printed double. Okay. What is float? It is also a number with decimal number, but they have different bit. So you can still say but for float, you always have to add a f at the end. They are same value. Let me print this. They are same value, but f, a float, needs to add a f. Yeah. So let's see. I kind of forgot. So double and float. Let me check. So float is a number with 6 to 9 digits, 4 bytes, and double is 15 to 17 digits with 8 bytes. So don't worry, sometimes some functions need float, sometimes needs double, but I can tell you now, we are going to use more float, okay? So we will use this more. Okay, what else did we have? We had Boolean, double, float, and string. Yeah, okay, that's the basic we are going to use. Okay, that's clear. And we also have this var. Var is called its value. It's a handy thing. It's pretty handy, but sometimes you are lazy. You don't want to check what the number is. You can just say var A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and say just a value, maybe. If you say that, this H is automatically an integer. All right. If you say this, maybe it's gonna recognize this as a double. So you don't have to declare a type. You can just say a var if you're lazy to declare what this type is. But one thing var doesn't do is you cannot declare and assign in separated line. You cannot do that with var. Does it make sense? So for example, with float or anything, you can say, okay, y is a float, and the value of y is something with decimal number and f. You can do that. And this means you can set a value and you can assign a value some later. You can do that. But with var, you cannot separate that. So let's see if I say var k, and k is something. You see there is red error, which means it's erroring. It doesn't work. So var cannot separate the line for assigning value and declaring that. How are you guys? Is it too slow?
For me, it's perfect, but that's because it's narrow coded. So
Yeah, perfect speed.
Okay, great. Yeah. So Ade may be too slow for you. Maybe you can still watch all the YouTube tutorials. Yeah, if you are going faster. All right.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't mind me. It's all right. Go ahead.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that is about declaring and assigning value and different data types. All right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just, for the tutorial sake, I'm gonna save this. I'm going to name this differently as data types exercise, yeah? And what did I say? This, this name has to be same as the file name. So I'm gonna close it and I'm going to rename this to data types. Why? Because I'm gonna share this with you so you can, if you didn't type it correctly or something. Where is the folder? Okay. Sorry. Google Chat. Okay. So that's our folder. I'm going to share this one. So my script is here, data types. So I'm gonna share this, okay? Cool. So second exercise, I'm gonna make another script. Right click, create. We are going to do this many, many times. And script exercise. So we are going to do few exercise, basic, yeah? And double click. Okay, make sure that this name is same as your file name. Okay. All right, I'm gonna delete all these unnecessary lines. Okay, one thing I'm gonna do is now we are going to print a value that increases itself, okay? So let's say I want to print debug log again, debug log, and which number? Let's say I'm going to print the integer. And the integer is called n, declare. And the value of n is 0, okay? And then I'm going to print n here. That's clear, right? So this is going to print what? 0, right? Yeah, but 0. Oops. Oh, the reason is because we have created the script, but we didn't assign it to anything that runs in the scene. All right. That's why still the cube script, the data type is running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to detach the component from the cube because we're not going to use it, right? So you remove the component. For now, we are going to make an empty object. There is nothing, all right? And you can reset. So this is a completely empty object. Normally, if you are running a non-geometric object, you use a lot of empty object, okay? I can just right click, rename this to script exercise. It doesn't have to be same name, but it's a good habit to have similar name or same name, okay? And we run this one, add this one here. So when we run the game, what the game is gonna play is all the script and element that is associated to this object that are on the scene. If the script is not called in the scene, it's not gonna be running. Does it make sense? So right now the data type is not gonna run because nothing is running it. We're going to use script. This is going to now run the script exercise script, okay? So play. So now n is 0, cool. But we can actually declare, we can actually print the n again. But I want n to be n plus 1. So what does this gonna do? It's gonna print 1. It's gonna print 0 first and then 1. I'm gonna copy this again, Control C, Control V. Can somebody guess what is going to happen now in the console?
2.
Only 2?
Oh no, first it's 0 and then 1 and then 2.
Exactly, yes. So it's gonna print 0, 1, 2, all right? So you can see how you can actually increase a number. That's the basics for a animation, okay? So now if I print this, Control C in the update, what can you imagine? This is going to print 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that correct? But now this is erroring. Why? Now then the concept of global and local value parameter is applied. So you see, I told you this parenthesis is one function, okay? So if you see this parenthesis, it means it's one room, all right? A value that is declared inside one room doesn't share with other parallel rooms, all right? That's why this n is a local value to start function, okay? N is not shared with update function, okay? So if you need to share this n with start and update, you need to put it outside the room, okay? To be able to share. This is called global variable. So this is local variable. And if you want to share this with update, you need to Control X and put it outside, Control V. Now the n became a global variable to the entire class. This is class. So these parentheses are class. So it shares with these rooms, okay? So that is global variable. All right, now it's not erroring. So can you guess what's gonna happen?
Gonna keep running forever.
Which number?
The n+1. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay, so I assume it's gonna print 0 first, and then 1, and then 2, and then in the start, and then it's gonna become 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Okay, let's see.
But the integer is assigned only outside of the class, isn't it? So how can the update have n value as 2 when it starts?
Because it calculates from start to update in order.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes from top to bottom.
All right.
Good question. Thank you. Yeah, so start and update is a Unity embedded class. It executes, it starts first, all the start lines, and then the update lines, and then update lines, line by line. Okay, so if you play, now you see it's playing, it's printing a lot. Cool. So that is the basics of making an animation. Okay, so let's now look at the cube. So what I'm gonna try to see is when I move my cube, okay, I can see that now if I want to move my cube in this direction, my X value changes, all right? What if I script this so I can actually use this value to change the position, X value of the position? Wouldn't it be moving, right? So, so in this case, I'm going to make a new script. Now it's called cube behavior. Now it's a cube behavior. Double click. Okay, close. And I'm going to hook this up to cube behavior. All right. Okay, so now let's see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say a value of this value. I can tell you these values are float. All right. So in order to give a number to Unity, Unity use values, float values. Okay. So I'm going to say float X value, for example. You can declare any name. And you can assign the number outside as well, but doesn't really matter because it's safer to assign the first value in the start. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm gonna start from 0. All right. And I'm going to let the X value to update a little bit, 0.1 F every time. You can minus as well. Okay, so this value is going to change. Okay, but not only changing the value itself, we need to use that as a position value, isn't it? So in order to do that, because now this cube behavior is under the cube itself, so you can say transform dot position is new vector 3. So because position is a vector x, y, z, so what we are going to do is we are going to use x value. We need 3 value. We need y value and z value. But in this case, we are not going to change the value. So we are going to still use this. My positions y value and my positions z value. This means, although it's long, but it's not that complex. It means I'm just using my original positions x, y, z, but y and z. And only x value, I'm going to increase it. And I'm going to start from 0. So I can copy this line here. So I properly start from 0. And then I will move. So I'm going to save this. And then, yeah, if we start to move towards right, I'm successful. So this is not 0. I hope it goes to the 0 and then move. Okay. Does it make sense? Okay. So that's the basics of creating movement. So you can see that this is called vector. Yeah, we can create a new vector like this. Vector with 3 float number. So what we can tell now is that this is, so this, you can tell me if this is correct or not, yeah? Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, I will have float y value, float z value, and y value is transform dot position dot y. Z value is transform. Is that correct? And this means plus 0, 0, F. 0, 0, F. So if we do this instead of, that's correct. That's same, right? Is this same as before?
Yes, because we're declaring the variable.
Yeah, we are just declaring. I'm just writing it in different structure. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what we can tell is whatever we are adding, This is same as this. I'm going to restructure this again. So so let's say vector 3D, vector 3, previous position is transform X value and Y value and Z value. A vector, new vector 3. So this is the previous position, correct? And then direction. Direction is new vector 3, 0.1f, 0.0f, and 0.0f. And vector 3, new position, the new calculated position is equals to previous position plus a direction. Is this correct? So eventually what I can do is I can just say the new position is the previous position plus a direction vector. Is this correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask,
Yeah.
why did you, while declaring y val and z val, why did you do transform dot position dot y plus 0.0f?
Yeah, so
Why
you
did
are
you
right.
add?
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I should do this. I can also just do this. X. Is that clear? So when I'm updating, I'm using the previous XYZ value. That's my previous position. And I'm adding a direction vector that becomes my new position. Is that correct? Okay. So what I'm just trying to say is any basics of the movement is a calculation of two vectors. Normally, it starts from a position vector and you add or minus a direction vector. That becomes your new vector. So that's the basic principle of a movement calculation. Is that okay?
So when you're assigning x val, y val, and z val, that means that it is assigned to the current position of the cube.
Yeah.
And okay, all
Yeah.
right, got it.
Yeah. So actually, I didn't have really declared this. So easiest way maybe to just say is, okay, the current position is transform position. I really don't need these lines.
What does transform dot position do?
It's this value, current position value.
Okay.
Cool? Yeah. And if I want to always make sure when I start, it starts from 0, 0, 0, for example, I can say, okay, transform position is a new vector 3, 0, F, 0, F, 0, F. Then it's gonna start from 0, 0, 0. Okay, I'm going to delete all the unnecessary lines just to make it clear.
Without defining transform position in those three lines, is it already inherent that it's XYZ value? It's like line 9, right? Without doing that, is it already? Like it transforms.
If you don't do this, it's gonna start from this value.
Got it. Okay. So you're defining the where it starts at.
Yeah, exactly. So you can actually define To be honest, I want this to be a little bit higher, so I'm gonna make this one into 0.57, for example, right? So that's how you freely define where you start. If you don't have this line, it's gonna start from there.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And
If
is,
we make, oh, sorry, please go ahead.
no, I was just a little bit lost in is it vector 3? Is it different if it's vector 2 or vector 5 or like the number of it, or would that be a sequence or something?
Sorry, can you repeat?
So vector 3, is it a reason that is number 3 and not number 5, number 1? Or number
Oh yeah, vector 3 is a type that is provided by Unity. It means 3-dimensional vector.
Okay.
Yeah, there is also vector 2. There's no vector 5.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
So
vector.
moves in 2 directions in 2D.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we are going to just very likely just use vector 3.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a Unity provided classes, and let me show you where you can find them. You can see Unity API, C#, and this is the documentation. And you see Unity engine is what we were using, all right? So the system is what Microsoft C# is providing. But we are adding Unity functions, which are provided by Unity. And the vector is one of it. There are so many of these, right? But let's see where vector is. Okay. No, let me just search vector 3. Vector 3. Okay, it's inside. Ooh. It was inside classes, I see. Unity engine classes. There are so many classes. We don't need to know anything, and like all of them. We were using vector 3. There's vector 2. There's vector 4. Don't worry, we are not going to use it. We are using vector 3. And in order to make vector 3, it's called constructor. So when you make an object, creates a new vector with given x, y, z component. So you can click on it and see how to make a vector 3. So yeah, so public vector float. That means how you create how you construct a vector. And we were using plus operation here. So there are a few operations you can do with it with vector. So if you want to know more functions of it, you can come in and see. Yeah, and the property is what you can get. For example, we were using transform position because position is vector 3. So we can say dot x to get the x value, dot y to get the y value, and so on. So these are called properties. So any values that you can return by calling it.
Could we save that website into the Google Drive by any chance for reference?
Okay, so I normally just search Unity C# API, but I can also save this. For now, let me share this in the chat. And yeah, I'm gonna also add this in our add this here. So course material here. Is that okay?
Perfect, thank you.
Cool. Great. Yeah, so any language, they have syntax and they have some people build it. So always they have documentation. So you just need to find the correct documentation. So for example, you can still use C#, but in Rhino, for example. Then all these Unity classes are not usable there, right? But you can still use all the C# syntax. All right. So for Rhino, you need to find Rhino API in order to script in Rhino, for example. Okay.
And is it only possible to use C# in Unity? Can you use Python or some other language? Just
Unity, yeah, only C#.
okay.
Okay.
I have a small doubt. So
Mhm.
if we, in the modeling screen, if we move the cube, will the values of the transform position get affected in the coding screen, the Visual Studio?
Will the value?
I mean,
saved?
like,
Can
yeah,
you save the value?
yeah.
So you can pause it. So what we normally do is we pause, yeah, and you
Okay.
copy this object and
Okay.
close the game. And some values are not copyable. But I'm going to introduce like instantiating. So if you instantiate something in the script, it keeps the value. I will show you that. Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay. So you can keep the position after you pause the game or close the game. All right. And there is a way to also print as Excel file. Yeah, there are lots of ways to go about it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
Cool. All right. So the movement is clear, right? So normally this is a position, normally a movement, remember this principle, a movement is about adding a direction vector to a previous position. That's movement. It's so simple, okay? And the magnitude or the length of the direction, it means its speed, the movement speed. Does that make sense? So by meaning that, I can say this direction vector is actually a 1, 0, 0 vector. And the speed is 0.1. Does it make sense? So I'm going to say speed is 0.1 f. Okay. So the direction vector times speed added to the previous position becomes a new position. Is that okay? So that's how you define a movement's direction and speed. That is for everything. Now you know the whole principle of movement. Is that okay?
Yes.
Could you repeat that? Could you repeat that?
Okay, so just a principle of a direction is adding a direction vector to previous position. That becomes your next position. And you just repeat that process every time. Then that becomes a movement. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the principle of the direction is direction have a direction and the length of the direction vector is speed. Okay. So if one speed becomes higher, it's gonna just become faster. Doesn't change the direction, right? So basically, like if you know this principle, in the future when we structure much more complex scripts, we will use this structure. It's okay? All right. Let me give you a very quick example. All right. So in Unity, one thing is really interesting is that you can change the value in runtime, meaning that you can actually access the value publicly. So instead of saying the speed is a local value, I'm going to change this to a global value that you know already, right? It accessed by start and update. But not only that, I'm going to say public. Do you see this line public? It means it's accessible from other things inside Unity. If you don't say anything before, it's equivalent to private. If you want to make sure it's a private, you can just say private. If you don't say anything, it's private by default. So if you want to turn something to a public value, you need to say public. Okay. If I save this now, what's going to happen is if I click on cube, I suddenly now see a value here called speed. All right. Now you can actually type here a value, or you can just move the value. All right. So I'm going to say, okay, 0.01, and then I'm going to play, and I'm going to change the speed. I can also minus the speed. I can also change it to be faster or slower. All right. So now you can make it interactive. All right. Okay, so that is the public value, and I'm going to also test changing the direction value also to a public one. Yeah, so now once I save it, it let me change the direction, right? So now I can actually freely change the speed and direction in runtime. I can maybe change, I can make the Y value big so it goes up, you see? Now it's going up. I can make it minus, so it comes down. I can make the X minus. So that determines the direction. Does it make sense?
Does it keep moving forever, or how do you
Yeah.
determine?
Yeah. It moves forever according to the directions you insert here. Okay. Cool. Few more things. Okay. So that is about adding a behavior to a cube. Okay. We can also let it rotate. This we use quite often. So I'm going to make a new script, just a simple, it's very useful. It's just 2 lines and call it turntable. And let's.
I just typically I feel like the Z is usually the up and down axis. Is there a reason why it's different here?
Yeah. So you see, like Y is up here in Unity. Yeah, you cannot change that.
Okay.
So in Unity, Y up.
Okay.
All
Yes.
right, good question. Okay, so in cube, I'm not going to use cube behavior. I'm going to use the turntable. So you can like just tick it off, or you can remove it. This is going to be a fact. Like it's good that it's unticked. It's good. Okay, so I'm going to just add a core behavior called turntable. We are going to just let it just turn. So normal turntable, yeah. So we use this a lot. So I'm gonna just have it. So there will be a, okay, public speed of turntable. And maybe the speed can start from 0, F, public float. And in the update, we are going to use transform, rotate. So rotate is a behavior, it's not a value. So we need to use 3 value here. We are going to rotate according to y-axis. So it does a turntable. You can try different axis, but we have to keep x 0 and y to be some value, speed value, and z to be z0 value. It's really simple. And then we are going to play. It's a 0. So click on this, have a turntable. Starts to turn. It's really simple. Can make a different speed turntable movement. Okay. And you can actually activate both behavior in separate script. So both is gonna apply in the same time. So it's gonna move and it's also going to turn. You can also change the direction according to what you set. Okay.
So here, rotate is a function.
Sorry?
Over here, rotate is a function. We
Yeah.
didn't use any function in the previous one.
Yeah, rotate is a function. Transform position was a value, right? Transform rotation is a function. So I'm sure you can also find it somewhere here. Transform, rotate, transform. So there are few functions, method. These are properties. So you can access position, for example. Yeah. So say dot and it's a vector. But methods are something you can use as a behavior, like rotate, or all these are functions. Cool. Good question. Okay. Okay. One thing maybe we can cover. I'm going to make a new scene, okay? Just I can normally you have already a scene folder. This scene is saved. We can make a new scene and save it as scenes folder. Cube tutorial, whatever. Okay. Here we are going to create a cube in 0, 0, 0 position. Is that cool? Okay. And the lighting setting, just generate the light ones. Okay. What we are going to try is to copy this many times with some kind of rule sets. All right. Let me wait, give me 1 sec. Just in my note. So many notes. Okay. Okay. 1 sec, 1 sec. Okay, found it. Okay. So one thing I'm gonna cover today is a concept called prefab. So this is the object, yeah? So if I copy this one by Control D, Control D, Control D, and if I change a property, for example, maybe I'm gonna change the material here. You can right click, create a folder called materials, double click, right click, create a material and say red. This is just whatever. Yeah, you are using standard, opaque, and just change this to red. Okay, what if I apply a red color here? So for example, I'm changing certain property to one. Doesn't apply to others, isn't it? But the concept of prefab is an object that it's like a Rhino block, for example, yeah, or XREF. It references certain properties. So I'm going to create, let me just create a sphere, for example. Create a sphere. I'm going to turn this into a prefab, all right? So I'm going to right click, create a prefab. In order to make this into a prefab, you just have to drag this to a folder, all right? And you will see that this is gonna change the color to blue. So just drag this to the prefab. This became blue, all right? Then this became a prefab now, all right? So what's the difference? If I now copy this one, yeah. But if you go inside this prefab by clicking the arrow here, any of this, because they're all same prefab, so same of this guy. If I click here and then change the property here, for example, just change the material, right? Do you see that they all get applied? Yeah. So that's the difference between individual objects and a prefab. Okay. So if you, for example, just change any property like a scale, they all gets applied together. All right. Cool. Okay. So that's about prefab and object. Okay. Now, okay, let me just close delete all this. Delete this. Let me create a cube. Okay. Let me make this into a prefab. And let me change its name to brick. The name doesn't change together, but I'm going to delete this and drag this back in. So it's called brick. And I'm going to maybe make this a little bit elongated so it looks a little bit more like a brick. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty object and say a wall. I'm going to make a wall. Has a lot of bricks on it, okay? And I don't need this thing inside my brick scene. I'm going to let this wall script to copy a lot of brick prefabs, okay? So in the script, I'm going to create a script called brick wall. And drag this to the wall script. There's nothing here. Double click. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this guy to copy the brick prefab. Yeah. And I think I'm not going to use update this time. I'm going to just show you how to create multiple things. Okay. So one thing I need to get is because I'm not previously, the script was inside the object, but now I don't have any object in this empty object. Wall is an empty object, isn't it? So inside this, I'm going to grasp a prefab. So the prefab is called game object, and I'm going to name it brick prefab. Save it. Once you save it, it's going to ask you to get something. So here you can connect that. So click on the wall, go to the prefabs folder, and drag this brick here. Okay. And what you can do is now you can copy that object. So you can say instantiate a brick prefab on a position. So on a position. So there are many options, but we need a position and a rotation. So rotation is called quaternion. Don't worry, I also don't know much about quaternion, but there is a way to turn a vector into quaternion. So what we need is a position vector. We can name it position and a rotation. So now we are going to slowly calculate the position. So position vector should be a vector 3. Position is, I'm gonna say 0, 0, 0 first. So vector 3, 0f, 0f, 0f. And rotation, a 0 rotation is called identity rotation, quaternion. So don't worry about this too much. You just need to create a quaternion value called rotate is a quaternion dot identity. So this is a 0 rotation. There's no rotation. We will also be able to make a vector as a look rotation. So we are going to be there. So don't worry. So now we are copying, if we play this, there will be one brick with no rotation created on 0, 0, 0 position. This was not saved. That's why. Save it. Okay. Is that okay? That's good. If we want to copy one more, maybe like next to it, for example, we want to make something like that. Yeah. So it means, let's see, around the interval is around 1 something. So if we want to copy them like that, what do we have to do? We have to just make rotation is just 1, same rotation. So let me just put the rotation above because we don't have rotation. We're just going to use 1. Control C. If we want to copy one more, say 1, make another value and change this value to 1.1. For example, Control C, Control V, 2, maybe 2.2, and so on, right? 3, 3.3, 3. Is that okay? So we made 1, 2, 3, 4 position value and 4 instantiation. So if we play now, it created 4 bricks, right? And the interval is 1.1. It means my previous position as 1.1 becomes my next position, right? So that's the interval. Okay. What if we want to make many of them? Do we have to copy every time? You can guess that's not the answer, right?
n+1.
Yes. So for that, we need to use a concept called for loop. All right. So this is a C# syntax. So if you are curious about C# loop, so there are many tutorials about different types of looping, but we are going to use this one looping method today. So it's called for loop. So the syntax is like this. Say for int I is 0, semicolon. I is smaller than a number, maybe 50, I++, and a big parenthesis. And you will put whatever you want to loop 50 times inside this parenthesis. So Control X, Control V. This means while I start from 0, I++ meaning I is I+1. So this is same as I+1. So when I is increasing by 1 until it reaches 50, you do these lines over and over again. Okay. So within this parenthesis, there is this value is increasing, which is I. I is an integer. So we can use this I as a increasing value. So before we became 0, 1.1, 2.2, 3.3, right? So it means a integer, a interval, number of interval, which was 1.1, f increases from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So times I, meaning because I will become 0 to 50 and they will increase just by 1. So if I save this, if I play, there will be 50 bricks generated. See, there was 50 bricks. Okay. If we wanna do this on this direction, Y direction, we can nest the loop one more time. So we can say for int j is 0, j is smaller than maybe 10, j plus plus, or j is j plus 1. And big parenthesis, loop this thing inside this and give the j value to do something with the y value. So what I can do is I'm gonna put maybe 1.1 f times j. Save. And play. Now I have a brick wall that has 50 column, 10 row. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's very cool.
Okay, cool. And we can also use some rotation value just to make it a bit more interesting. So I wanna make them rotate a little bit per I and j value. So in order to add some behavior to this thing, we need to declare it. Say game object current brick is the instantiated brick. I'm going to say dot transform rotate and on y value. So 0, 0, I times j, 0f. So this will rotate on the y axis according to some value generated from I and j. So if we play this, it creates some interesting rotation like this. Okay. And since these are instantiated in the script, you can copy, you can pause it, you can copy this geometry, Control C. I have copied the lighting as well. So just say Control C. And then close the game and then say Control V. So you'll keep it. You can keep it, you can export this as OBJ as well. And they are so many lines. So what's the best is when you are instantiating something, just say, it needs a parent, just say transform, which means it's going to be generated under this game object. So if you say play now, now all the brick is inside this wall. So it's a bit cleaner. Okay, so now you can just copy this object, Control C, close, Control V. So that is the object. Okay, so today we have covered some basics. You knew how to use start and update. You knew how to change the value from local variable to global variable. You learned how to loop. You learned how to make behavior. and understanding behavior as a addition of the position vector and a direction vector. Okay.
I have a question. Are you able to control the result of that transformation, like the shape and rotation that it has?
The rotation is determined by I times J. You can do some math to control the rotation.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So on the last line of the script, current brick, like, is that a name you just assign?
Yeah.
So,
So
like,
I declared a
Mhm.
name for
um,
this new instantiate.
like, do I need to keep the same name somewhere
No.
in the Unity? Okay.
As long as this and this is same.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you can just say A, then just change here A.
And then another quick question, like for the value J, it's for variable X, right?
Y value. It controls the Y value.
The J value controls Y value, the J controls Y value. Why is it like, why is the I value under J? So like the I value, the entire thing is like inside
So you
the
are
J.
copying this, you are looping this 10 times.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so it's nested.
Oops.
Okay. So these were some scripting, but there are so much more about Unity. Let me just give you a quick example. We will cover this more in next tutorial. But in Unity, you can actually create like interfaces. Yeah, like for example, now you see this. Imagine this is your mobile phone. Yeah, for example, you can change the screen ratio and stuff, and you can make a button, for example. You can also change the button color whatsoever. Yes, there are a lot of interesting things you can do by adding UI and playing with this interactive game. So yeah, scripting is one thing. It's very important aspect. There are also quite a lot of really interesting things we can explore. So I have tried to cover some basics because you guys will have to deal with scripting. You need to get used to it. So I thought it's not harm to get you some basics. Yeah. But it's gonna be great if you guys can self-learn some more basics by yourself. There are lots of tutorials out there. Maybe just search for some Unity C# basics and just do some exercises, yeah? And what we just shared, oh my God. Let me get back to our, where's the, oh my God. Okay, so that's the, okay, that's the syllabus, okay. So if you go to this, copy this line, YouTube channel, paste it. If you are interested, you can start to follow some of these. For example, there's this AR basics, for example, at the end, it allows you to make some face app, for example, like this is an app. You can make, for example, you can also let me see what else there are. Okay, so multi-object tagging. I'll just show you the result. Yeah. So you can click and position something in your room, like IKEA app. You can also select like a shop. You can also make a properly three-dimensional AR app. So these are AR app that you can actually use. Let me see. Yeah, so this is how you can there's also a tutorial showing you how to add like map. Sometimes you might want to add some map information, city map. So it shows you how to like use map information selectively in your app. You can use their geotags, for example. Also shows you how to make three-dimensional button. Okay, I think you have plenty of room to just go ahead. You don't have to wait for our weekly tutorials. Yeah, if you are already like very ahead of time. Yeah, it's not harm to learn quite a bit, especially in the first semester. Yeah, when you have like I always say, your skill sets is like in the fridge. You have a lot of ingredient. Then once you need to cook, you have a lot of ingredient to cook. Sometimes maybe you will waste some ingredient. Sometimes you won't use it. That's okay. But now it's a time for you to fill your fridge with a lot of ingredient. Yeah. So no shame for learning this and that. And maybe at the end you will focus on something specific, but now you don't have to really pick and choose. Okay. Cool. So today I think we went a little bit slower. Yeah, but no harm. That's okay. Most important thing is at the end to deliver a interesting narrative proposal and a working AR application. All right. And the skill for making an app is really simple, to be honest. Yeah. So you will start to build up the now it's good to build up some basics. Any question?
Yeah, I have a question. So like when you're working on the AR project, usually to what extent you will like model or construct that thing in Unity? Or do you do somewhere else and then bring it into Unity?
Yeah, you have to model mostly outside. Yeah.
Like what is the best software to bridge with Unity?
Unity, anything that you can export OBJ, STL, FBX.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I use a lot of Rhino, Maya. Yeah. But if you know any other software, like it works very well with FBX. So anything you can export as FBX.
Yes.
And also if you are, another thing, if you have some time, just really go ahead and explore Unity App Store. So let me show you Unity App Store. You don't need to spend money. What I'm saying is they have a lot of interesting, I don't know why it goes, interesting free assets. Sometimes they have, you don't really have to use any paid material. Wow, it's really interesting. They have like always some nice update. They have some kits for like UI design, for example. Sometimes, yeah, they're like interesting icons, for example. This is paid, but there are a lot, they are free. Yeah. So some model kits also. There are lots of model kits. Also, we use a lot of what was that? 3D model software. No, platform. I forgot. Download free 3D assets. Oh my God, I forgot the name. I used that already. Oh, Sketchfab, yeah. Yeah, Sketchfab also has a lot of free items. It's really handy. But of course, we don't want to just use like free assets, yeah, because everybody can use free assets, yeah. But it's okay for time to time. Just really explore, because they can really give you a lot of potential with very little effort. All right. Then, yeah, so is it clear what you have to deliver by next week? So just keep on learning, but try to think about what you want to propose by the end of the 6 weeks period. Yeah. So you can already like using some Photoshop to already design your interface. That's okay, because any interface design you have to draw anyways. Yeah, so design has to be done in Illustrator or Photoshop, but we are going to use the image to be clickable, slidable, and everything. All right. So you can start
Can we use Adobe XD for that? Will we learn anything about that?
Adobe what?
XD, the UI design software of Adobe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You are importing JPEG or PNG. Yeah.
Okay.
You can draw them anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, you can already start deciding kind of like color palette and style wise. Yeah, because that's very personal. But most importantly, really try to establish a quite unique narrative, a story. How maybe my Uber Eats app will be 3-dimensional, and it's going to be used with Apple Glass, and how is that going to change your dining experience, for example, or fitness or anything, yeah, that relates to some kind of city living. That will be very interesting. Okay. Cool. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week at 1 for design lab. But yeah, we might bump into each other in school. Okay. Good luck.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.